I was just reviewing this first video, what is the intersection? And I don't know why I did, because I think like looking back at videos and allowing the flubs and stutterizations, I think I made up that word, the ums and all those things could be edited out, see even that. But I am promising myself to come from a place of authenticity, which requires me to avoid having a plan. A rough idea, yes, but I believe that what makes up our reality is precept knowledge and concept knowledge. To have this idea of these facts, perhaps, but conceptualization, which taps into imagination to create our reality. And I want to do the same in making these videos to avoid being scripted. Regardless, though, I'm looking at this whole video of what is the intersection, and I feel as if I speak in circles, but that's how I often speak in trying to come full circle, right, back to the point. And often it seems as if there's tons of segues and tangents, and that's just the way things are. But I do want to try to be clear on what the intersection is, and I figured I could actually explain it better by examining what presence is. So I think that presence, when described by the vast majority of people, would be to maybe repeat the mantra spoken by Ram Dass and be here now. And I think that being here now is often interpreted as being in the physical space, right? To be present might mean me attending my son's soccer match, sitting in the stands and watching, which has me in a physical realm, present, but it doesn't mean that my mind is there. My physical body is there. My mind might be drifting off into future thinking or past thinking, both of which I argue is just chock full of anxiety, either looking forward to something or trying to avoid something, being nervous about something in what we call the future, or perhaps reminiscing about something that has been a fond memory, or just sitting in some type of regret. All of which, good or bad, which I think that we tend to designate and attach to, it is what creates anxiety. And you don't have that feeling in the present moment. So I'm gonna have a few explanations, one of which kind of piggybacks off of what the intersection is. The first one is the physical explanation of what presence could be. And in this description, to tell you in the physical realm what presence is. And if we could get there, then we can jump into something a little bit deeper. So our physiology for the human has our eyes set before us, as I've said in the previous video. Now, whether biologists have studied us and they believe that our evolution is a form of adaptation that's allowed our eyes to come to the front of our face so we can seek and hunt our prey, unlike the prey who has evolved to have eyes more on the side of their head to see the periphery or behind themselves if they were being hunted. Now, that is an explanation, that is an ology, a study of something. But could it be that our physicality is something to accentuate the illusion that time is linear? So let's just focus on time and we'll get back to presence. So if my eyes are here, what I'm seeing, where I'm seeing you as the viewer, would be what we call the future. I can see you out there. I'm not to you yet, I'm here. But as I come closer, my future then becomes present, okay? It's a better description when I'm like traveling and I'm driving and I see 15 minutes ahead of me of where I've got to be. That's the future, and I'm driving until I am there, okay? So future, presence, immediately here, and behind me, well, it's behind me. I've gone through that. Now it's behind me. I don't know anything about it. I can't see it. I have to make up the thing in which I am visualizing, dependent on what we call memory, of which has certain attachments that might make me lament or reminisce about that. And regardless of whatever that is behind me, I have to make up a story. It becomes Nate's story, his story, history. So in that just simple example of having the future up until the present moment, and then what we call the past, the middle of that, the midpoint of both extremes of the same wavelength is presence. Regardless of where you separate it, it's the single moment. That's just a physical explanation of presence. Now, if I were to transcend the physical and get into something more etheric, that seems a little bit more ungrounded, or into the astral, or into where what we call self-awareness, which ironically is this awareness of a self that we aren't really attached to. It's an extension of something else. But when we get there, we realize in the physical plane where our choices are left, right, forward, or behind, with our body chemistry, makeup, biology that perpetuates the illusion that time is linear, we're limited to these options. In the etheric and astral, those options are much deeper. To go skyward to the heavens, to feel more connected to our God, or to go inward and examining not only what something is, but how is it this thing? Why is it this thing? And who created this thing? More so, who is determining the why and the how of this what? The more we do that, we begin to transcend the physical and understand that our options of this path aren't just left, right, forward, or returning, but also inward. And if we are so in that present moment, we see it as an intrasection, not an intersection in the physical plane, but an intrasection. And you start to realize that this moment, this present moment, which is a bit affected having a camera to affect them, and my authenticity isn't the 100% it could be, because there's an audience, and we know that through the double slit experiment, for everything that's observed is altered by the mere act of being observed. That which is being observed is affected by the observer. Then it removes the authenticity. But regardless, in this present moment, it's the only place to be, and to fight that is absolutely insane, ludicrous. But I would argue that most people have their misery just in not accepting their present moment, and then not accepting what is within that is connected to that present moment. But from here, you'll realize this is the Godhead. This is from where we create. Even in having a plan that is future thinking, that's not creation. It gets to where you're in the present moment creating. No different as the illustration that it seems is so esoteric as the flower of life, where there's a Godhead and the circle that intertwines it, that represents the awareness of that Godhead, and the circle that emerges from that, creating the Vesica Piscis, our third eye, the awareness of the awareness, and so on and so forth. These ever-expanding circles. At the core of it is the example of presence. And from that, interconnecting into all of those circles, you begin to understand that here is the core of it all, is the foundation. And you also get to realize that time is not linear as exemplified in the physical plane, but all things are happening simultaneously. the question to ask ourselves is, why is this the crux of our memory? And it's because we have this ego that is the placeholder, the bookmark of this experience, to allow us to know that there's an experience. And just as God had to forget he was God in order to have all of these experiences, we have to lose our identity as well. When we lose our identity as well, we begin to transcend our single experience, which is chock full of subjectivity, based on our education, upbringing, indoctrination, our fucking algorithms that are fed back to us to confirm our biases. We can begin to have other experiences, understand that time is absolutely fucking nonsense. The only thing that exists is the now. And by being in the now, you get to realize that time isn't linear, but all things are happening at once. And if you can be here in this moment and hold the thoughts of another moment in which you want, you will undoubtedly achieve it, because you're creating it through the vibration of thought. Now, more explanations on all of this, explaining what the intersection is, explaining what presence truly is. Isn't just the concept of being here now. The guise of listening, maybe hearing something, but your thoughts totally anywhere but a moment that you can only control, which is the now. There will be more on these Hermetic principles, but maybe this is a good explanation of just what presence is, and another explanation of what the intersection is, which is where I need to be in order to even share this shit. Questioning why I feel called to share this shit. And the short answer would be, I feel that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of that experience is to share our experience, is to express ourselves in order to perhaps solve our karmas, understand different ways of living, expanding our perspective, which can do nothing more. Well, it can do more, but it does nothing but foster and nurture compassion and in turn empathy. That's 15 minutes of just jabbering on, but 13 minutes of it, regardless. What's time?